Good morning, everyone. My name is Emma Shulock, and today I will be covering the second part of Chapter 2, The Shape of the Story. Former NBC News Today show correspondent Bob Dodson explained every story should include these elements: hey, you, see, and so. Every story begins with a hey, as in, hey, give me your attention. You, the viewer, should care about this story. We will make sure you see the relevance. C represents the 2 or 3 facts you have in your story that nobody else knows. So is why the viewer should care. In other words, what does this story really mean? Dodson says his stories have 4 main points: setting the scene, foreshadowing what is to come, establishing a conflict, and resolving that conflict. One form of news writing is inverted pyramid style. This establishes news first, details later. A good example of this is the Associated Press reported Friday, April 14, 1865. The president was shot in a theater tonight and perhaps mortally wounded. This is a tactic used so that you are not wasting the reader's time and instead getting straight to the point. The next style of writing is the hourglass. In the hourglass, the top of the story holds the important news but with a twist. It is followed by a transition to hold viewers' interest and supported by details of the event. The hourglass can hold the viewer's heart from top to bottom. The difference between the inverted pyramid versus the hourglass is that the inverted pyramid style is used for breaking news, and the hourglass is for narrative stories. Next is the big close, which is the ending of the story. When ending a story, be careful about using a soundbite. When a story ends on a soundbite, be certain the soundbite does not tilt the story in some way that makes the story unfair. The last words in a story can color how the viewer think about the story. It is also dangerous to close a story on a one-line out cue, because it can send an editorial tone that you did not intend. The best way to close a story is to spin the story forward. This is telling the viewer what is likely to happen next. And the worst endings are ones that leave the viewers with questions and leave them on a dangle. One thing journalists need to resist doing is the temptation to tidy up an untidy story. The good guy does not always win. Sometimes stories do not resolve themselves, and sometimes bad guys get away with crimes. It is important to tell these stories, or we risk being less than authentic. We see a lot of welcome home stories when soldiers return from war, and it is good to celebrate such moments. But we also need to tell the stories about how difficult it is to adjust to civilian life after living in a war zone. Next, we look at the power at the end of the sentences. One method is to rearrange the sentence rather than adding or subtracting anything. Place a number 1 next to the most important or surprising part of the sentence. The second most surprising element gets the number 2, and the context or dull but important part of the sentence gets the number 3. For example, the original sentence reads, "The crowd gathered and knelt around the 15-foot-long creature." What seems to be most surprising is that a crowd knelt around a dead whale shark, so that gets the number 1. The fact that there was even a crowd at all is surprising and important, so that gets number 2. And we already knew that there was a dead whale shark involved in the story, so that gets number 3. So once we rearrange, the order of the sentence should be 2, 3, 1. Therefore, we get the crowd gathered around the 15-foot-long creature and knelt. This makes the sentence much stronger than it was in the original one. You can find everything that I discussed today in Al Tompkins' Aim for the Heart in pages 34 through 56. Thank you.